And didn't you guys do the Christmas flag? It's right, but you can stand up and turn around, the flag's right there. Everybody gets to come.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got a lot of people here tonight, so I would ask that you respect that, you know, the comments be fairly short and that we keep some order within the meeting. As always, we allow public comments at the beginning of the evening or at the beginning of the meeting, but once when we're acting on agenda items, once the board each has a chance to weigh in, we do open that up to the general public too. So I guess I'll ask at this point in time for public comments. Rich Jensen?
Yeah. Rich Jensen, I live on West Avenue. I'd like to make a statement on behalf of many of the fellow township residents, some of whom are present this evening as well as some who did not attend this meeting. We think that you should know that as a group of concerned township residents, we're extremely unhappy with action taken and supported by some members of the township board in recent months. It would seem that there's been a determined effort by certain board members to discredit and denigrate Maxine McClellan's performance of her duties as the township supervisor. Several of these attempts were given press coverage in our local paper and in fact revealed the playground bully mentality of these trustees. It appears that they thought that if they made life miserable enough for Maxine, that she'd give up the battle and resign. Apparently they've not been around long enough to pay close enough attention to know that when the going gets tough, Maxine gets going. You have on your agenda tonight a resolution authorizing the board to hire a township superintendent. This action would make it possible for you to strip Maxine of her duties as supervisor without her consent and hand those duties over to your newly hired township superintendent. You would have then opened the back door through which you have control, in effect, of the township management. We want you to know that we support Maxine and appreciate the many years of dedicated hard work she's put in for the benefit of the township residents. Granted, it's pretty hard to please all the people all the time, but we feel that overall she's done a superb job of keeping the township intact and defending it against those who would like to tear it apart and hand the pieces to the city. Through her management and guidance, the township has come a long way. We're especially proud of the Big Rapids Township Airport Industrial Park, whose establishment Maxine spearheaded and will serve this community long into the future. We strongly recommend that you abandon this resolution and want you to be aware that if you proceed with adopting it or persist in persecuting Supervisor McClellan, we're prepared to immediately initiate the recall process of Trustee Wayne O'Neill and possibly any other board member that votes for this resolution. Thanks for your time.
Any other people wishing to make a public comment?
I would like to ask if it would be possible to make the proposal the next item of business rather than keep everybody here for the whole evening.
Is the board agreeable to that? Move to that agenda item? Is this the consensus of the board? We can do that. I guess I'd like to, because there may be other public comment that's not related to this, I would like to also offer an opportunity for more public comment or anything that's not related to this. You're welcome to weigh in. But was there anything else? Report from our county commission or any other kind of general public comments? Okay. If not, then we will move directly to the first item of business under new business, proposal of resolution 20902, creating the position of a township superintendent. And I have to say I was surprised to see this, but not terribly surprised because my endeavor on this board has been I expect Wayne to come up with things that aren't on the agenda and put them on the agenda. Wait a minute. It's on the agenda, yes, as of last Thursday. But unfortunately, as some of you know, there was an article in the Pioneer, an editorial that discussed us as being a dysfunctional township. And we certainly aren't dysfunctional because we don't cooperate with the city. We work with them 100 different ways all the time. In fact, the day that came out, both Mike Warba and Steve Sobers, we were at an economic development summit, assured me that they didn't feel that way. That was not the case, and they named off to the people at that summit a whole list of things that we are working on together and continue to work on together. But what's dysfunctional about this board, and in 38 years I've never had this situation before. We've had lots of different board members serve on this board. Way back to when John Emmett, probably 60 different board members in that amount of time. But the fact of the matter is, I've never before had a situation where things come to the board, sometimes that aren't on the agenda. For instance, some of you might remember the front page headline in the Pioneer that I had run over the phone bill. I offered to pay it, I did pay it, I'm now I'm paying for all of the phones of those 4 people that use them because it's important to me that I can get a hold of Keith or a building inspector, or whoever I need to get during when things happen at the township hall. When I took over, I said, hey, rather than give up those phones, I'll pay for them myself. It's important to me. It's important to the functioning of the township. When I had the opportunity then to get online and pull up the phone bills for 6 months back, I found that I was the next to the last lowest user. That was not brought to my attention. It was brought to a board meeting and obviously it had been talked amongst board members, and I had some really good friends in the community. I got several checks and several envelopes with cash in them. I've returned it all, except I've still got a $10 bill that they didn't give me a return name to, and if anybody here sent me that $10 bill, I want to pay you back. But the fact of the matter is that we have to be able to, the reason we have a Michigan Open Meetings Act is because the idea of good functioning government is that you have an opportunity for everybody to know what's going to be on the agenda, that you discuss the issues in a meeting, in an open meeting where the citizens can be present also, and not go from person to person to person counting votes and getting the votes lined up, and even on issues that aren't even on the agenda. And that, if we are dysfunctional, because I'm proud of this township, I've worked hard for many years trying to do the best I can in this township, and I admit I'm not perfect. I make some mistakes sometimes. But this really breaks my heart to see that we've reached a point where everything's being decided behind the scenes and one-on-one, and that's not the way government is supposed to work. And I guess I appreciate the fact that you're here. I tend to not fight back when things come up like that phone bill. I say, fine, I'll pay it, and they still didn't want to let go of it. But it creates a vision to the people of our community that we aren't a well-functioning township, and that's the last thing I want to see happen in this community. And the Pioneer writes their stories and make things look quite different than what they are quite often. And in fact, the whole issue we had with the bills, our attorney bills for the township, I found out was pushed by 2 trustees, and I think those bills, what we've spent on township attorneys, of the bills that the paper reported on, half of those were the abrogation easement, which we didn't have a choice to do attorney input on, because we had FAA saying you can't do that, you got to have the abrogation easement to extend the runway, so the city was in that predicament. We had EDA saying we just spent $3 million on your industrial park, and if you encumber this land, you may have to pay it back. And I think Steve will agree with that. I've talked to him at length. He certainly understands that that's the case. That abrogation easement that we supposedly held up, and that didn't come from Steve, it came from a member of our board that we held that up. Steve at that Economic Development Summit said there absolutely was no holdup. We reached an agreement the end of last August, beginning of September. Then it was turned over to Eric Williams. He then worked on that abrogation easement for, well, up until we got about the end of March, I think, is when we started getting information from him, and he and Jim White got